Um, okay, now that I mention it, let me go ahead and try to explain it to you. Um, I could have very well have put if b is even is equal to true. That's a perfectly valid statement. If you think about it, when we're dealing with Boolean algebra, and in Boolean we're talking about true and false, whenever we're testing an if statement, whatever we put in there is either going to be true or it's going to be false no matter what it is. Okay? If b is even equals true, has two possible values, true or false. If x minus 1 equals 5, it only has two values, true or false. So in other words, anything we put into an if statement, no matter how fancy the calculation, will ultimately boil down to true or false. Well, b is even is a Boolean variable, and so it's boiled down for us. We don't have to use all the extra notation. Okay, but if you did this, b is even is equal to true, then that's okay too. Okay, but typically a professional programmer, you will not see that. All you will see is, in a case like this, if b is even. Okay, you could do some really weird things that don't make any sense, like if 0, if a, and those would evaluate, and those would always evaluate to true. There's just some weird things you can do with programming, um, but they make no sense. Okay, is that clear? Does that make sense to you at all? Okay, good. Okay. Oh, it will, Melissa. It takes a little time. In a traditional in a computer science program or a software engineering program, you do a lot of math classes prior to this, and there's one called Boolean algebra. You do that, and once you've done all those things and learn all of the, there's 17 mathematical functions in Boolean, and then you translate it into programming, and it's really the same stuff. Instead of using math symbols, you're using programming logic. We don't have that luxury here, so you will. Um, yeah, that's right. Yeah, Boolean math. You want to watch that over and over again. It's actually kind of fun. It's not that difficult at all. It's probably one of the more interesting areas of math, and I can tell you. I mean, I got a PhD in engineering, but I am not a math whiz, and most of us aren't. We work hard at it, and I worked hard at it, and I worked hard at becoming a programmer. So it took me a little while, and over the years it finally sunk in, and now it's just like second nature. And part of it is just, if you can grab some programs like the ones I showed you that are already pre-written in NetBeans, and you just step through them, even if they're long, you may step through them 30, 40 times, things will start to make sense to you. That's how I started years ago, and I started on punch cards, and it was kind of scary back then because you didn't have any fancy interfaces. All you had was some index cards with a little hole punch that you punch holes in to do your logic. Okay. Any other questions tonight? Um, I mean, if I can keep going on all night, but the problem is that if I overwhelm people and I give them too much to try to think about, then it starts to have a law of diminishing returns going. So if there's nothing else, and it is almost 10:15, then I'll go ahead and close the session out. So I'll wait here for a couple minutes, and we just hope we have a good video, because I don't know if that video worked or not. I've never I've never used this program before. Okay, half even. Okay, that's actually a good idea. All right. So are you using like a big decimal type of object? Okay. All right. So with a big decimal, well, half even, you're never going to use half even. It's very, very rare. You're going to be using half up. Okay. So if you understand how we always round, if something is less than halfway, then we round it down. If it's halfway or higher, then you round it up. That's what half up means, okay? And that's the one you're going to want to use. Half even, what it does is it's almost I don't want to get into too much into math here. It's almost like a mode operation. So it's going to check to find its nearest neighbor, and if its nearest neighbor, there's only one nearest neighbor, then it will use that value. If there are two equidistant neighbors, then what it will do is it will take the even one of the two. You really honestly don't need to know half even in this class, because I would expect to see half up for everything. Okay. There are some just odd times when you use that. Occasionally it's used in statistics and things like that, and we're not doing statistics. In business and a lot of times in science, and I come out of a science background, it's half up. And when we're doing some statistical modeling, it may be half even. Okay. Okay. Are there any other questions? Okay. It looks like there's no questions. So everybody have a good evening, and feel free to call me if you need any help. I do want to say that for Saturday and probably towards Sunday evening, it's going to be a little harder to get to me. I'm going to be actually be in an area of Vermont that has little cell phone coverage, actually the Vermont New Hampshire border, and it's going to have very little cell phone coverage. So it'll be a challenge to get at me. But if you have a question, email it, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can on it. All right. Good night, Megan, and everybody. Richard, you're welcome. Lydia, good night. Melissa, have a good one. All right, Richard.